Okay, I'm gonna use Grok. Grok has been pretty damn good. I've been playing with that little search engine for a long time now. Um, let me see if I can go to Grok. Grok is like a search engine. Grok 3 beta is out, so I'm messing with it. So if carb if carb is stripped of their power, who sets the emissions guidelines for California? Let me see what this says. This is a theoretical question. But look, there's articles, and it gives you web pages. If the California Air Research Board were stripped of its power to set emissions guidelines, the authority to establish emission standards would revert back to the federal government, as specifically the EPA. Here's how this would work based on the current legal and regulatory framework. Guys, Grok is great. Under the Clean Air Act, the EPA sets national emission standards for vehicles and other resources of air pollution. However, Section 209 of the DEA grants California a unique ability to request a waiver from the EPA to establish its own, which was taken away, guys. This part right here, Section 209 of the Clean Air Act, grants California a unique ability to request a waiver from the EPA to establish its own regulatory definitions, and it was stripped the other day. More stringent standards provide certain conditions are met. This waiver authority has allowed CARB to develop and enforce emissions guidelines that exceed federal requirements, such as advanced clean cars, 2 programs various in heavy-duty vehicles. If CARB's authority was removed, either the EPA denying or revoking waivers, which they did, Congress amending the Clean Air Act, eliminate California's special status, or through legal challenges successfully overturning CARB's powers, the state would no longer be able to set its own standards. In that scenario, California would fall under the federal emission standards administered by the EPA. Like other 49 states, unless they explicitly adopt California standards under Section 177 of the Clean Air Act, which some states currently do, but only California retains its waiver. This is good, and it goes on to explain. So this is great. This is great news. And the reason Grok is good is because it cites articles and posts on X to kind of get its summary. So if the waiver is removed and it reverts back to the federal government and it gets legislated that CARB does not exist any longer, y'all don't get state ref. You fall under federal guidelines. Florida falls under federal guidelines. Now remember, people think that Florida is Florida. So the problem is South Florida operates totally different than the West Coast, Tampa, Sarasota, Bradenton. Absolutely. It's different than Jacksonville, different than the Panhandle, different than Orlando. So if you are in the Panhandle and you are driving around in your off-road Corsa, blow my ears away, Mustang, you might get pulled over and given a citation for loud and objectionable exhaust or harsh and objectionable noise. In Florida, South Florida, Port St. Lucie, all the way down to Miami, they would never do that. Why? It is rich motherfuckers here, and they all have toys. They all have Cobras. They all have Lambos. They all have Ferraris. They all have badass Mercedes. They have big, lifted, crazy trucks that blow smoke everywhere. This area of Florida is paradise for car guys. So you have to afford to live here. You got to understand how the area operates. It's not for everybody. But don't think that if you live in Canada, Massachusetts, Wisconsin, Chicago, whatever, I'm just going to go to Florida. And then you're going to just point on a map and go, I'm going to move there. Where's that? Well, that's Zephyr Hills. What the fuck is a Zephyr Hill? I don't know. It's close to Orlando. Get there, bring down your big block Chevy, go to the ice cream cruise, get popped for loud exhaust. Well, I thought this was Florida. Not South Florida. It's completely different. That's why I think people that don't like South Florida, first of all, are gay, but I think they hate it because they think it's Miami. Guys, I hate Miami. I don't like Miami. But anything above Boca is pretty badass. Like Fort Lauderdale's, little Kodak Black, but even though he's Jacksonville, but you know what I'm saying. Pompano, forget it. But I'm saying Palm Beach County, it's pretty hard to beat. I'm about to order.